game where top this way you go. How does it go?
Oh, let's go.
What's up, everybody? At long last, I'm uploading some footage from my trip to Port Hardy in September with Rob. 3 days diving with UV Diving at some of the best dive sites the Pacific Northwest has to offer. I dived out of Port Hardy before for work, but this was my first time diving some of the choice sport diving sites, and wow, as you'll see, they did not disappoint. All this footage was shot using my Samsung S21 in the Sea Life Sport Diver housing. So the first dive of the trip was along the coast of Vancouver Island at a site that Sean discovered called Grotto, named after the large clusters of gooseneck barnacles found at the site. The visibility was absolutely stunning, especially having spent the summer teaching in the algae blooms of Howe Sound. I could have seen 2 fish on this dive and I still would have enjoyed myself. You'll see Rob and Faith here expressing their delight at the conditions with a nifty little backflip from Faith. Every surface was covered with life, which would become a theme for this trip. Enjoy the footage, guys. For our surface interval, we stopped off at this cool waterfall right on the beach. A nice spot along the coast to off gas and relax before heading into the next dive. The legendary Browning Wall was our second dive of the day. This, I believe, is the dive that Jacques Cousteau called the finest cold water dive site in the world, and it is not hard to see why. The colors are unlike anything I've seen outside of a tropical coral reef, and there isn't a single place along the wall that doesn't have something living. This is a challenging dive as the wall goes very, very deep, and even with the tides timed expertly, we still had a pretty decent current pushing us along, which made steady filming quite tricky. Day 2 rolled in with some beautiful sunny conditions. Poseidon blessed our trip, and we were really lucky that it didn't rain a single day, and the winds were very cooperative all 3 days. We did 3 dives this day with 2 new sites and another dive at Grotto. We also opted to switch from air to nitrox for the remaining dives, as every dive was deeper than 20 meters, and the extra bottom time really came in handy. The first dive of Day 2 was a site called Harar Point, and the visibility here somehow managed to surpass the first day gooseneck. You can see here from the surface the divers at 10 meters below me are clearly visible, and I'd estimate the horizontal viz on this dive was at least 20 meters. We had a really cool visit with one of the reef residents, as you'll see later, and there were tons of hooded nudibranchs on the kelp and eelgrass towards the end of the dive. And here's the star of the dive, a giant Pacific Octopus. We found this guy hanging out in the open with a couple divers, and it slowly retreated to its den, but it stayed near the entrance. I never like to harass or touch marine life without their permission, but with octos, I like to place my hand nearby to see if they want to interact. And you'll see here this one did, reaching one tentacle out slowly to grasp my arm. And it really did feel like a handshake between two thinking creatures. Those octopuses are very intelligent, and was an overall really, really cool experience. Showing off this fancy elevator that made exiting the water on this trip a total treat. We killed some time at the surface while waiting for slack tide. We had a nice show from some humpback whales in the distance, but unfortunately I failed to get any good footage of them. We would, however, spot a sea lion just before entering the water for the next dive, and that would be a little sneak preview of what was going to be coming our way.
Yeah, just saw him.
So we did run another dive at Goose Grotto between Harar Point and this dive at Lone Tree Island, but the only footage I took on that dive was this footage of a big lion's mane jellyfish. Like Browning Wall the previous day, we jumped in the water at Lone Tree Island near Slack, but only 20 minutes or so into the dive, the tide turned, and oh boy, did it start ripping strong. Faith and I broke off from the rest of the group and had an awesome dive together, and right at the end, we had a nice little visit from a new friend. And here is a really sweet interaction with a female stellar sea lion. These guys can grow up to much larger than a diver, and their agility in the water is truly impressive. But despite their speed and size, they are very rarely aggressive towards humans, and I have yet to feel threatened by one in the water in many encounters. You'll see here she is not used to seeing people and was very curious, even giving my camera a little boop with her nose. Unfortunately, the filter on my camera was partially flooded. That's why you get that line across the top of the video, so that did kind of ruin this footage a little bit, but it was still a really neat encounter. Day 3, and before we even suited up at the dock, there was this cool hooded nudibranch swimming along in the marina. One group of very excited divers, as you're going to see here, and Sean had heard the others expressing their envy at our sea lion encounter the previous day. So he took us to this site called Berry Island out in the middle of the passage just outside of Hardy Bay. And before we jumped in, we could see several stellar sea lions eagerly awaiting our arrival. They put on a great show for us in the water, showing off those acrobatic skills they possess, and they stayed with us for a good 8 to 10 minutes on the dive. We then continued on around the island, but the strong currents made progress really tough, and the water was a very noticeable couple of degrees colder here than the previous dives. So after about 40 minutes or so, we called the dive and headed to the surface to be picked up by the boat and seek some warmth. And last but not least, we dropped in at a site that was dubbed September's Gspot after some of Sean's past clients. This is another site that they discovered along the coast of Vancouver Island, just a little up further from Goose Grotto. There were loads of rockfish here, and the sheer density of life, really as with all the previous dives, was just amazing. Just absolutely stunning. With the last safety stop completed, we returned to the surface, capping off 3 days of unbelievable diving. Port Hardy did not disappoint one bit, and I know I'll be returning in the future. Enjoying the boat ride back here, Rob, Faith, and I would end up planning one more dive before the ferry the next day down island in the new stay. Madrona Point is widely regarded as the best shore dive on the island, and you're pretty much guaranteed an octopus sighting here. I think we saw 5 different octos on this dive, and I managed to get some footage of a pair of mated wolf eels as well, which you'll see briefly here. Thanks for watching, everybody, and stay tuned for more content as I get the hang of this and get better at it. I'm going to be putting out more videos, so thanks a lot for watching again, and happy diving.